Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Pulpwood Queens International and Timber Guys Book Club. And I am here tonight with our author of the week. She's been featured all this week on Breathless Bubbles and Books and will continue through the week. But we have Ruthie Landis, and Ruthie is a multiple Pulpwood Queen pick. And we are going to be talking tonight really about all of her books, but this one in particular, I don't know if you can see it because there's a little glare, but Acting Lessons for Living Acting and Enneagram Masterclass Guided Journal. And Ruthie, she was on our book and film club the other night. She had the most fabulous stories. So we hope you'll share some more stories. I shared today, everybody, on Facebook. Kathy Ramsbarger did a interview with Ruthie about a month ago, an in-depth interview on all of her books. And I listened to it and I said, my God, that was one of the most incredible interviews I've ever heard, Ruthie. I mean, really, she captured everything about you. So I'm a little intimidated about jumping into this after what I should have waited till after I did this. But I just want you first to say hi to everybody. Hi.
Well, I want to just say hi, and I want to say that I have been in a lot of different communities in my life, and I have never felt such real warmth and generosity from people. It just doesn't feel like people in this group are coming from a scarcity place. It feels like you are coming from a heart place, that the good of another is not getting in the way of you. And I think that, Kathy, you set this tone, and you set a tone of enthusiasm and kindness and safety. And in the artistic world, it is really rare. So I just want to thank you all for your support. And I can't believe that I'm sitting here talking to you, really, because I respect all of you so much. And I'm really grateful.
Well, you're here because of Sherry Stott, who owns the Main Street Reads in Somerville. And I just came from her book club meeting because they're discussing, and I'm going to share this because we're going to be reading it this coming year. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner is going to be out paperback in 2022. This is going to be an international read because it's set overseas, and it is one of those that I love books that bring in practical magic and mysticism, and this is just a fascinating story. And it's also, we talked to her book club, and we talked a little bit about books that empower women and change the way we look at the world. And that's exactly what your books do. When I first heard about Beyond the Book Club,
Yeah,
uh,
here's, I'll show you. There's Beyond the Book Club. Very colorful.
it is. But when I first heard about it from her and read it, where'd I go? Okay, let me go back. Oh, there we go. I lost you for a second. When I first heard about it, I thought, what's this about? And I loved the premise of it. I read the book and was just, rereading and rereading. But then I think what really is important and what I love about the Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys book club is it's important to me that the author is brought into the picture, because when you hear the author explain where the book is coming from, you get it comes into, it's like the photograph that's being developed. All of a sudden you see the full picture, and that's the way it is when you hear you talk, or any of the authors that are here today. You see where the book's coming from. So where did this all begin? For those who haven't read the book or will be listening later, where did this book thing come from? Because you have a wide variety of career um, professions.
Indeed, I do. Mary Poppins is with her
Really?
little bag, and out comes this, and out comes that. Yeah, so it's interesting because before I get to Beyond the Book Club, I'll just talk a little bit about. So, the first book, which came out last year before this one is the real, is the book, and it's full of stories and an introduction to the Enneagram and how I could combine all the different aspects of what I've done. So I began as an actor, acting teacher, director, playwright, wrote film scripts, stuff like that. And then I was led on my hero's journey to study body centered psychotherapy. So, body centered psychotherapy is using the body, to tell the story, because the body doesn't lie in every moment. Like right now, my heart is pounding a little bit. So, it's not lying. It's like going, oh my God, I'm with all these great authors and I'm just beginning to claim this part of myself. So the body never lies. So I became a body-centered psychotherapist so that I actually could help the artistic community with all the rejection and everything like that. Then I started to study this thing 25 years ago called the Enneagram, and I was blown away by that. It is this ancient model, about 2,000 years old, of points of view and fully developed personas, 9 fully developed personas. And it isn't like, oh, it's a personality system, although it can be cheapened into that. What it really is a guide to our own self mastery, a guide like a map of this is my tendency, these are my insecurities, these are my fears. Here's how I work with those fears and those secrets that I keep, how I wear masks over those secrets because I don't want people to see them. And here's how I strategize so that the world doesn't see what I'm really hiding. And so I was like, oh my God, this Enneagram thing, it's not only helpful as a body centered psychotherapist, but it's unbelievably helpful. Like I, started doing writing master classes and for my acting students and directing students, because you can look at a play or a character in a novel and you can go, oh my God, that's a 3, that's a 4, this is their character arc, and it's astounding. I've been working with it for 25 years as a therapist, as a coach, and in my arts, and it's applicable to everything, and it is dynamic. So then I became into that. Okay. Then, and then, so then I'm, facilitating workshops using my acting work for experiential learning, which is what I love. I feel like, just reading a book or whatever, that isn't how we learn. In fact, statistically, we only retain about 5% of people talking at us. So I'm hoping tonight that I'm not going to be just talking at you. I really want to involve all of you. And I thought about tonight, like, what could we do together? How could we learn about each other together? That would be really a blessing to me. So fast forward, I decided that okay, I'm going to backtrack to get to how I got to the books. Okay. So what I kind of wanted to do with us tonight, if you guys would be willing, is I went back to where did I finally find my voice? So Kathleen, last week you'd said when you were 15, you just knew it. You just knew that you had to be a writer, right? You knew that you had a voice and that you were, at 15 years old, right? So for me, it was sort of the reverse. It was like I started acting when I was 8 years old. So I like to hide behind the character. It, I was, I wasn't about my own voice. I was about, I'll give voice and embodiment to the characters, because then I can hide behind them, right? And so I walked into a class at Northwestern. I was on full scholarship at Northwestern, and in the performing arts department. And so that was theater, but it was also literature, and taking literature and adapting it into stage theater pieces. So it'd be taking like all of your novels and looking at the narrator and giving the narrator a character, and the character is the camera that's telling the story, and they're on stage too. And then there are all the characters in the story, and you take the novel or the short story. I mean, I remember one of the first things I, started to adapt was like Flannery O'Connor and Eudora Welty, and then I ended up doing a one-woman show of Colette and Dorothy Parker. And so literature always was like, I didn't want to just be in the theater. I loved the literature, right? But that was somebody else's voice that I was giving a voice to, right? So I walk into this class, and this blessed man, Dr. Robert Breen, may he rest in peace, he became my mentor. And when I went into his class, and I talk about him a lot in all my books, my first book was dedicated to him. And he taught me so many things. He taught me how to learn. He taught me how to think. And in his class, I was like doing so great. I was getting all A's, all my performances, you'd have to adapt literature, make a script, perform it. I was getting all A's. And near the end of the class, he called me in and he said, Ruthie, I'm going to have to give you a B this semester. And I said, what? I've gotten all A's on everything. I've gotten A's on my performances and my tests and my essays. Why are you giving me a B? And he says, because you don't talk. You don't have a voice. And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, you need to raise your hand and you need to tell me what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. And I can't give you an A until you do that. So the next semester I took his next class, and I started to raise my hand. And every time I would raise my hand, he challenged me. I don't understand what you're saying. No, you're not making clear enough to me. It's not clear enough. And then I go up after class. I try to clarify. I go up after class. Well, did I do more today? No, you got to do it more. You got to do it more. And every class I'd go, and I was like raising my hand all the time, and I was mortified. And I was like, oh God, I'm taking up too much space. I hate this. And he'd say, no, you're not talking enough. You're not talking enough. And then I said, I'm taking over the class. This is horrible. What about the other people? I don't care about the other people. And little by little, I found my voice, my own voice. And he wanted me to teach from that voice. He wanted me to create from that voice. He wanted me to honor that voice. And so what I want to put out there, just for you all to think about a little bit before I tell you a little bit about these books, is I would love to hear about how you found your voices. That would mean a lot to me. Like, when did you know that you had a voice and what your voice was meant to say? So I want to just read something real quick from the first book, Beyond the Book Club. And it's actually Beyond the Book Club, We Are the Books We Must Read. So one of the chapters, so each chapter, there's 12 for the year. and each chapter deals with something. And then the point is to meet with your book club or your little community or whatever. And there's a script at the end of each chapter where there's a script for the facilitator, for the person who does the music, and how you can experientially go in and explore what I'm exploring in the essays beforehand. So I am committed that we all know ourselves better and that we all know each other better and have more empathy and generosity toward each other. So that's where this all came from. So I do want to read just a teeny little bit that sort of sets this up. And so this chapter is about speaking your truth, what frees you and what holds you back. So this was one of the participants in this year-long workshops that I did and then put together into the book. She said, finding my inner voice wasn't easy, but when I attended one of Ruthie's gatherings, something changed that afternoon. It was glorious, powerful, unknown, and most of all, exhilarating. The mental challenges, improv movements, coloring, and interconnectedness really got me out of my shell. I soon took a stand for myself, letting my inner voice be free and heard. Since attending that gathering, I have been blooming like a beautiful flower. And that was Nancy, office manager, mom, and esthetician. So what I say is everyone has a voice. Our voice is conveyed through our words, sign language, body language, the choice of silence, through creative content, dancing, sculpting, painting, writing, gardening, and our actions. Perhaps even just thinking a thought communicates telepathically or energetically. So speaking takes many forms. Sometimes we are discerning and deliver our thoughts and feelings consciously. Sometimes we blurt out impulsively, unconsciously, and may come to regret it for its impact on others and ultimately for ourselves. So, what I'm inviting is a greater sense of awareness about what is really true for us at the deepest level. Then we could make good choices about what to share and when or if we need to share it, always with clarity and intention. There are reasonable times to withhold information. I'm not going to tell a serial killer all my vulnerabilities unless I was suicidal and wanted to participate in my own demise. In an obviously dangerous situation, I would want to discern what to share for my physical safety. But in most situations, the dangers we see are an illusion, something we have made up. Who would I be if I could tell myself the truth about my fears, my vulnerabilities, my unworthy thoughts, and still accept and love myself even more after doing so? What is my aware truth and how do I know it or find it? Nancy's quote at the beginning of this chapter speaks of her inner voice that she couldn't even begin with. She engaged in an inquiry and decided to look for that locked away voice. And she allowed herself to feel safe. The activities that follow allow the mind to question, the heart to accept and receive, and the body to share data that is both metaphorical and concise. We are prisoners of the defensive and protective lies we tell ourselves. And that is why they say the truth will set you free. So more than talking about me, I would really, so I told you the story of how Dr. Breen helped me find my voice, right? And I haven't shut up since, really, you can tell. So will you share with me how you found your voice and how you knew how you were going to direct that voice into the world?